Jessica from the Retro Farmhouse. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well as the notification button so you know when I'm uploading some new videos. So I had a lot of questions about how I repaired my last cane chair, how I do some ideas for repairing those, so that's what today's project is. I decided to repair my other chair that I had got recently from a barn sale. And so there's a lot of different ways to do this. I'm definitely not a professional on it. I just do what works for me. So that's basically what I'm going to show you today with the other chair that I got from my dining room. And the original one that I got, the way that I had fixed that, I basically cut out a little piece, I think that it was probably a ½ inch thick board, and whatever the thickness was of the original seat. And I basically cut that same out to fit into that hole so it fits flush with that. And then I basically just took some 1x and I screwed those underneath into the bottom and into that board. So that's basically like a flat flush piece. So that's how I did the last one, but this other one I wanted to try something a little bit different and another way that I knew how to repair these. Again, if I could find somebody that repairs, cane chairs and just can redo the cane, it's kind of a lost art, I think, but, occasionally you can find that, but this is just an easier way to do that and just to add some decorative fabric to it as well if you're into doing that. So let's get into today's project. Okay guys, hopefully you can hear me. Today's project, I'm going to show you how I repair some of my broken cane chairs. I did one before and the video was getting a little bit long, so I didn't completely show how I fixed the bottom of that. This is another chair that I got for my dining room table. I found this one at a vintage sale that a lot of items she had been storing in her barn, and this one had a broken cane chair, so I think I got this for like $10 maybe. As is, and it kind of is similar to the other one that I have, and I don't really mind that it doesn't match my other dining room chairs. I kind of like the mismatch look for my farmhouse look. Just so I can give you guys a little bit closer of a view of how this chair looks here. So I have literally not done anything to this. I need to just take some soap and water and clean this down real quick. I love the detail work up here. I don't know if you guys can see that real well. There it goes. It has some great detail work up at the top, so that'll be really great once I do decide if I'm going to paint this. I probably will, just to match the other end one so it makes it go a little bit better with my dining room. But most of the cane chairs that I find are like this. Now, occasionally you will find somebody that does repair old cane. That's great. I do know maybe one person that I got a business card from in our antique district here that does do this, but a lot of times it does take a lot of time if you're not really into that and you don't mind to repair this a different way. These other ways that I'll show you are it's just easier for me. It works better. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and remove all of this. I will also, sometimes I try to remove this outer piece too. This piece is usually glued in pretty well, so sometimes I can't always get that, but that's not going to matter for how we're going to put this next piece on. So just to show you guys some of the closer details of this, I really like the spindles on this one. It's pretty sturdy. I don't really have to add any extra wood glue or anything like that, but if you do ever get one that's a little bit wobbly, sometimes you can just take a little mallet and kind of knock these out and just reapply them with some more wood glue and clamps. But mine's pretty sturdy. I don't have to do that with these. So let's get in and we'll show you, removing all this so that we can get started on this piece. So a lot of times if it's really old cane, all you have to do is just rip it right off. This is basically what I'm going to do. And then see how easy that came out? It's just, some of it's so dry rotted, it's just going to come out really easily. And then I'll go back and I take my pliers. You could probably also take just a box cutter and cut some of this off as well. I'm just trying to get this as flat as I can to the surface. And then you can also, if you want to, take a sanding block and kind of sand down around the edges just to get it a little bit more flat. But like I said, the piece that we're going to end up putting over top of this will cover this, so that won't really make that big of a difference. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I got this piece of plywood from my local Home Depot. They do sell it in smaller sections, so I got this one for I believe about $5 and some change, and it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. And this one's happened to be 2 feet by 2 feet. I don't need this whole section, so I'm actually going to just be cutting this down. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this with my saw, 1 foot by 1 foot square. If you wanted to get a little bit fancier and you had a better saw, you can most certainly make part of the edges curved at the top here to follow some of the lines, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just perfectly fine with doing a little square base here, but this is basically what I'm going to place over top of my chair hole to hold it pretty well. So you always want to make sure that anything that you're putting over top of this, this is not going to be this thick, or it's not going to be very thick. So when I put my foam over top of it and then my material, it's going to make a little bit of a dome shape, but it's not going to be so much to where it's going to be, you know, really uncomfortable. It's going to make it more flush with the chair. So you also want to make sure that when you're cutting this, that you're going to cut it at least an inch or more bigger than what your hole is, so that you have plenty of ample room for support there. So we're just going to go ahead and cut this with the saw. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I painted my chair with the, I think it's the Rust-Oleum chalk paint. In the same color I painted the last one. I'll put a picture up here of this one. I got that at Home Depot. It took me about probably 1.5 cans to cover this with a couple of coats. I just sprayed some light coats and let it dry in between, and I will distress this, but if you're doing this method, I recommend painting that first and then working on your seat. So there's a couple of different options that you can do. Again, I'm just using the 1/4 inch plywood to create my seat here. If you're doing this method, you would want to do the 1/4 inch. There's a different way to do this. There's several different ways to do this. If you want a thicker seat and you want to do it to where you're going to wrap your seat first with your batting, your foam, your material, and then place it on here and drill from underneath to attach it, then you're going to want to make this piece wider. So I would recommend that you cut your square, you know, pretty close to the edge or as close as you can if you're going to go with the 1/2 inch plywood. If you're going to go with this piece here, which is just a 1/4 inch, you can do it a little bit smaller because the lip of it, when you get the cushion on, it's not really going to make that much of a difference as far as, you know, the plane of this. Again, if you're using the bigger one, you're going to want it to be bigger because it's going to be, you know, you're going to notice that thicker side piece, and you want that to be the majority of your chair, so that way it doesn't feel uncomfortable when somebody's sitting down on here. Now with this method, I'm actually going to put our board on first. I'm going to use some wood glue and some screws and drill some pilot holes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my batting material or your foam material, whichever you call it to use, on top, and then we're going to place our material on top of that. And I'm actually going to try using with staples to staple around this as close as I can, and then we're going to cut off the excess, and I'm going to show you some different ways that you can kind of dress the side here to not make it, you know, to where you're seeing the staples. So that's what the method that I'm going to try here using, just because I wanted to use the smaller plywood piece. Just going to apply a little bit of wood glue to some of my edges here. Next, I'm using my Folk Art clear wax to just apply a little bit of wax over top my whole chair here. I'm applying it with a wax brush. I like using this a little bit better because it's stiffer and you can really get into the detail areas of the chair. So I'm just applying one layer over this. Now, if you want a matte look, then I recommend waiting a few minutes and then kind of using a lint-free cloth to buff that off. But if you like it more glossy, it recommends that you wait about 7 or 8 hours for this to cure, and then you can kind of buff from there. So either way of your preference. So for my cushion piece, you can really use lots of different things. Some people use foam and then put another batting over top of that. I'm actually I like to reuse things. I have this really old pillow that was pretty firm, and so I just kind of cut my piece out to kind of match the square here, and that's what I'm going to use for my cushion piece. I didn't want it to be too firm, and I didn't want it to be like, not firm enough. I kind of wanted it somewhere in the middle, so that's why I'm using this. But you can get foam pieces at any of the craft stores. Or, if you wanted to try this method, just go to Walmart and get a pillow that's pretty firm. Sometimes they have them between $3 and $5. And you can kind of cut your shape out of what you want it to be. Now my fabric, since I want that to match the other pillow cushion that I've made, I have managed to piece together my last bit of that shirt. If you haven't seen that video, I'll try to link that below of my previous video of me, with the other chair that I remade, reusing some fabric that I got from a men's shirt at the thrift store. So I've pieced that together, and I don't mind that. I like the patchwork look. I think that makes it more farmhouse, more primitive kind of looking. So basically I've put that, I've sewn that with my serger machine, just so that I have these nicer edges. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to basically go along here and take my staple gun. It's not really a gun, it's the manual one, but you could use a staple gun, probably would work a little bit better. I do have one of those, but I really don't want to drag out that machine. But anyway, so I'm just going to staple along the edge here to as close as I can to the edge pieces, and then I'll show you what I'll do after that. So to create my cording that is going to go around my edge to make it more decorative, I'm just making like a covered, I don't know what they call this, a covered weld or cord, or but I've taken some more of my scrap pieces, and this is actually a clothesline cord, but really you can use any kind of like soft cord like this. And basically if you do so, I'm taking this and I'm going to create one channel with this. And so really close to the edge here, that way it makes that rounded edge. And then after I've done that through one pass, I'm going to come back again and I'm going to put another piece alongside this, and I'm going to sew that as well, so that you'll actually have two corded pieces next to each other that I can apply to my chair. Now if you don't sew, I will show you another way that you can apply a decorative edge to that without having to worry about sewing anything. So for my second cord, what I've done is I've just basically put that one beside the other one, and I've turned this over so that I have both of my cords here, and I'm just going to sew down along my channel here. So next I've just cut around my edge pieces, making sure I get all of the excess off. And then basically to apply my trim pieces, I've used some hot glue. A lot of people use hot glue to put some decorative pieces onto furniture. So I use Gorilla hot glue in my hot glue gun to put this all the way around the edge. And here's how today's project turned out. I want to thank you guys again so much for just supporting my channel. Don't forget, in the bottom is some of the links of some of the products that I used. I am an Amazon affiliate. If you do use my links, then that does give me a little bit of commission as well, and it helps me out and it helps support this channel. So again, thank you guys, and we'll see you again for the next DIY.